With the rise of streaming platforms, it might be hard enough to get a certain person to come and watch a movie at a multiplex or at the theatre. What is PVR's differentiator?
As a baseline, yes, OTT
Streaming platforms
have created a bona fide offering that is, by and large, a new quantity in the market if you compare to the rest of the industry for the last few decades.
In your experience within this industry for many years, where does the future of cinema lie?
Content obviously is key, right? The content has to come, and the content has to be high quality and compelling to the audience. Combination of all, and it's the constant reinventing. What's clear to us in this industry, as in most customer-facing industries, you cannot take things for granted.
Welcome back to Power Moves. Today, once again, we have gone international. My guest today is someone who has built theatres across continents. He has redefined luxury cinema, and of course, he is now driving the future of movie-going. As we know, movies are an outlet for many people. There are many movie buffs here in Sri Lanka and in the globe as well. So, today, my guest is Renaud Palliere, CEO of International Development at PVR INOX. Welcome, Renaud.
Thank you so much.
On Power Moves.
Nice to meet you.
It's nice to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
You're no stranger to Sri Lanka, so I won't say welcome to Sri Lanka because it's just a routine trip for you. Renaud, let's go right back to the beginning. Before you became CEO of International Development at PVR INOX, when did you enter this cinema industry? And what sort of lessons have you learned being in multiple regions in this industry, from the Middle East to Asia to Europe? What have been the key lessons?
Right. So we're dialing back the clock.
Straight back. All the way back.
Hong Kong was, for the longest time, for 18 years, my hometown. I'm originally from France, but moved very early on to Hong Kong in the late 90s. And this is where I started my professional life. Very quickly, in early 2000, I met the founders of PVR Cinemas, two gentlemen from Delhi, two brothers, Ajay Bijli and Sanjeev Kumar. They were on a business trip in Hong Kong, meeting bankers. The company was very small at the time. It was probably 4 or 5 years old, right? And in fact, we celebrated recently the 25th anniversary of the business.
It's come a long way.
It's come a long way, yes. And we got introduced by a mutual friend, and the rest is history. I started advising the company on what was at the time a key sort of juncture in the industry globally, including India, which was the shift from 35mm projection systems to digital cinema.
Yes.
A crucial time for the industry, whilst obviously the retail video industry had gone into DVDs, VCDs, all these digital media at the time. The cinema going industry was making that shift a bit later, trying to figure out how it would all work, the technology, the economics and the investments, the transition. It was a complicated and a complex matter. And coming from a telecom background at the time, we were very keen to look at the space as a new application for telecom operators to play a role to essentially transmit and transfer content from point A to point B, right, from the studios to the theater, right, in a digital format, as against those large spools of 35mm reels, which were very costly, very fragile, and difficult to shift from one place to another. Obviously, delaying the release schedule. There was no such thing as same date release globally at the time. It started with one market and it moved on for months and months and months, right? And doing so, the quality of the film was also deteriorating because printing making duplicates of prints was very expensive.
Yes.
Unlike, of course, digital cinema, it's absolutely costless. You multiply files as many times as you'd like, and the quality remains the same.
Distributed, yes.
Exactly. So it was a paradigm shift for the business, and there was sort of this junction point where I met Ajay and Sanjeev, and we started discussing how this would play out for PVR, and how PVR could play a role in that. A couple of years later, 2004, 2005. They invited me to join the board of PVR, so I was on on the board of PVR for about 8 years, whilst being in Hong Kong myself. So I used to essentially come for board meetings quarterly. Very quickly, the company went public. We did an IPO in 2005.
This was in India?
This is all in India, yeah. We got listed on the Bombay National Stock Exchange with ICICI Bank, that was our sort of main investment partner at the time. And then from that point onward, we really started growing from strength to strength, right? And through essentially raising funds to the public markets and acquiring companies to fast track the growth, as well as continuing to grow organically throughout the market. So we went through multiple acquisitions and became very quickly market leader. We were already market leader, and we were known essentially to pioneer Cineplex in India. The first Cineplex venue was actually a PVR venue in the very, very late 90s. Anupam in New Delhi.
I see. So from humble beginnings to a global expansion for PVR, and of course a presence in Sri Lanka here as well. Before we dive into PVR and the innovation and all of the development that PVR has undergone, let's talk about you and your leadership when it comes to handling large-scale entertainment venues, cineplexes in multiple regions of India and now Sri Lanka and other regions as well. What sort of leadership principles, Renaud, do you follow when you are managing these large-scale entertainment venues? Because it comes with a lot of pressure. It's directly facing the consumer.
Right.
And it comes with that inherent pressure of constantly innovating, giving the best consumer experience and so on. When you're giving or providing leadership to a team that is directly responsible to the consumer, how does your day play out?
Right. Well, it's as you said, it's all down to the customer, and that relationship is gold, right? And it needs to be upheld as the gold standard, right? So from my point of view, it's about empowering those teams that are interacting constantly with the customers, giving them the tools, the training, the directions and guidance, and the standards that are required to repeat that experience over and over again, right? It's hospitality, entertainment industries, all these industries, customer-facing industries are complex industries because so much can go wrong very quickly. And repeating that incredible experience twice, 3 times, thousands of times is where the complexity lies. Doing it once is not so complicated, but doing it at the same level every single time, day in, day out, is where the complexity lies.
Customer requirements aren't homogeneous.
Of course. They evolve, they change all the time. People have their own desires and preferences. So you have to be able to adapt to that within a framework that you define. Now, don't forget, I'm primarily focused within PVR on the luxury segment of the business, which has grown tremendously both in India and I think globally. We've seen that. Because it carries a massive USP, right? Especially in this volatile context of high competitive intensity with other media channels. That luxury segment has really soared in recent years, and so again that added complexity to delivering an impeccable customer experience is when you do that at this level of expectations. Expectations from the customer, obviously, because the customers know that the treat is premium, therefore the expectation is very high. So empowering our team to and guide them within a framework, making sure that they're comfortable with the resources that we provide them, and at the same time giving them the ability to quickly mature to that position and that responsibility, so that they can also improvise within certain guidelines, right? And they can also comfortably interact with the customers, be confident of creating that relationship. It's really about relationship.
Understood. So let's talk about the evolution of cinema and PVR, how PVR has adapted to that evolution. Like you said, in the early 90s or the 90s, it was more about physical reels being distributed to various theaters, and now it has moved to digital. There are now 4K, laser, IMAX, so on. And another entrant to the cinema experience has been the introduction of OTT platforms, over-the-top platforms, streaming platforms, essentially. How has cinema redefined its role within the larger landscape in an era where streaming platforms are now gaining a lot of ground? And how has it addressed the footfall from customers switching to a cinema-going experience to simply watching it at the comfort of their homes.
Correct. So it's beyond content. It has to be looked at as an experience, and of course, experience is a cliche that is very often overused. But it comes down to, it's more about hospitality almost than the content itself, right? Content obviously is key, right? The content has to come, and the content has to be high quality and compelling to the audience. And the content is not something that we have any control over. We're not making that content, right? We're studios, production companies, filmmakers do these amazing products that make people dream and escape for the duration.
Yes, exactly.
For the duration of the experience.
Yes.
We are in charge of everything else, creating that sort of
the ambience, the
continuum.
Yes,
right, yes. Exactly. We have to sort of extend that escapism into the entire experience, how people are treated.
Experience.
Absolutely, it's entirely 360 degrees. And so, if you look at it this way, then as a cinema operator, you go well beyond what used to be done for decades, and sort of age-old sort of practices of simply providing a shell with a screen and seat and a sound system. All that are the basics, and they have to be top-notch. There's no question. You cannot cut corners there, but you can also extend that experience well beyond that. So food and beverage has become a major component of our offering in terms of treating people to something that's that goes well beyond the staple cinema food, popcorn, Pepsi, and all these traditional sort of food items, right? Yes. And creating some dining experiences that really enrich the experience. And it starts with your online presence. It starts with the sort of
how they're treated.
They're treated right from the moment they enter the lobby. And that expectation needs to be met at that point. Not only at the moment the movie starts and the moment you leave the theater thinking, well, it was a good movie, but what about the rest? The rest has to add up as well.
Understood. So the rest is where you thrive.
Correct.
Because you give leadership to the premium segment
for sure.
Of PVR.
Yeah.
With the rise of streaming platforms, it might be hard enough to get a certain person to come and watch a movie at a multiplex or at a theater, but then getting them to pay a premium to watch the movie with all of the facilities and services afforded might be harder. Which means you have to provide them with a USP that is convincing enough for them to pay that premium price.
No doubt.
So what sort of USPs have you identified, and what is PVR's differentiator when it comes to
so there's several aspects. First of all, I think as a baseline, yes, OTT, the sort of
streaming
platforms have created a bona fide offering that is, by and large, a new quantity in the market if you compare to the rest of the industry for the last few decades. Something remains intact, and I think we've seen that in the sort of post-COVID era, right? Where during COVID, obviously there were huge concerns about what will become of cinema, in that very challenging time, and that question was obviously a question top of mind in many other industries that are creating experiences, physical experiences for customers, right? Whether it's travel, hotels, restaurants, and so on. 5 years post this very, very tragic and unfortunate event, we realized that something remains a baseline. People want to interact. People want a social connect. People want to come out and create memories with their friends and family and whatnot, and even complete strangers being in the same room and sort of reacting to what's going on the screen, being sitting in a room with other people that you have never met before is a very unique experience. And it seems to be talked about as a bit of a cliched experience, but it is in reality at the nexus of cinema going. Now, on top of that, what we can do is we can enhance that, right? We have levers to provide this USP that you're talking about. There's technology for that. All these special formats that you've mentioned before, IMAX, ICE, 40X, all these technology that are embedded into the auditoriums and create some sort of boosted experience, right? Many of them sort of rely on sort of the wow factor that either super large screen or sort of multiple sort of sensorial input type technology bring to the equation.
It's more enhanced than watching it at home.
Correct. 3D obviously is a big one of that in that department as well, and those technologies have been very successful pretty much from day one, and they give certain content, not all content, but certain content, especially big tentpole films, action films, the boosts that cannot be matched anywhere else.
Technological innovation is a big component of your
massive. Even though of course. LED screens at home have also become more popular, and largely improved, and sound systems as well. Home theaters. This is no match. This is no match. There's no question. Absolutely. Then of course there's the entire service, and for the hospitality component of the experience, starting with service and food and beverage, which has seen a major enhancement, and creates a USP as well, and justifies.
The premium price you charge.
There's no question. The quality of that experience is again something you cannot, reiterate or sort of do.
Explain. It's something that must be experienced.
Experience at home. Obviously, this is a different. Convenience is your home sort of.
That's the key advantage.
Absolutely.
But if
the experience is outside, right? I mean, there's no question about that.
Great. So you spoke about something that happened 5 years ago, and we all know the unprecedented scenes that took place when COVID-19 hit. And the cinema industry, I would say, was among the industries that took one of the biggest hits, because it is constantly dependent on moviegoers interacting with cinema theaters. How has consumer behavior changed, Renaud, since COVID-19? And what has PVR INOX done to adapt to this new mindset or new thinking, and to bring back consumers to movie theaters?
Essentially.
Or did that happen naturally? Sorry.
Pardon?
Did that happen naturally after COVID died down?
It happened. There has been a curve, mostly driven by content. During COVID, a lot of investment in content were put on hold. There were also, experiments led by certain studios to actually go direct to OTT. If you remember that, it was, and that was obviously a matter for concern for the industry. Luckily, and as we hoped to expect back then, those experiments did not work out. The studios realized that going to OTT direct and trying to essentially monetize the content whilst not waiting for the reopening of the cinemas was leaving a lot of money on the table. There was, they did not recoup their investment as much as they expect. So the reality was that the theatrical component was badly needed to come back. Right? Obviously, it took time for that engine in terms of reinvestment in or defreezing, if you will, the investment in content production to actually happen. So we've seen volatility in the last few years in terms of seeing content coming back on a in terms of from a quantitative point of view, from a volume point of view, and therefore the quality as well had to follow suit, right? I mean, you have when you have a limited amount of content compared to what we had pre-COVID. Obviously, you're going to have peaks and troughs, the likes of which you had not seen before. We see now these peaks and troughs sort of evening out, and we see gradually the industry coming back to pre-COVID days.
Pre-COVID levels.
Yes, it's true that beyond that sort of more sort of industry-related factor, the consumer habits, have also changed during COVID. People were cooped up, obviously
confined to their
homes. In their homes, used to watch content mostly on their devices, right? So that sort of habits has also started becoming ingrained to certain extent in consumer habits post-COVID as well, right? We see that. Continuing, the use of social media has exploded during COVID as well. So clearly, we could not sit by on the sideline and just hope. Hope is never a business strategy or good business strategy. You had to be proactive.
You need to be proactive than reactive.
You need to be absolutely proactive, and we needed to take the bull by the horn and reinvigorate the consumer sentiment towards coming out to see movies in the theater in ways that we did not anticipate to do before that, because obviously before that going to a cinema was more of a sort of a family experience, traditional sort of activity to do. So this has taken a bit of a obviously sweat and effort, but we're seeing that coming back. Complete learning curve. Now talking about Sri Lanka, we were incredibly surprised and happy to see that actually the country bounced back in ways that we could not necessarily anticipate compared to what happened in other markets, right? This was extremely encouraging to see that despite COVID and the economic difficulties, the cinema remained top of mind for many Sri Lankans to actually sort of keep on going and
keep on coming to the cinema,
keep on coming to the cinemas, keep on going to escape the difficulties of day-to-day life and get entertained and have a good time.
The rebound has been impressive,
and the rebound has been very impressive.
Great.
Absolutely.
So talking about the future of entertainment experience, Renaud, you have to keep innovating, especially in a digital world, in a world where AI is reigning supreme. The future of cinema has to be mapped out well. In your experience within this industry for many years, where does the future of cinema lie? Does it lie in technology, like you explained to me earlier, or is it in storytelling, or creating a sense of community within the PVR universe? Where does it lie, or is it a combination?
Yeah, it's. I mean, the straight answer is the combination of all, and it's the constant reinventing. I think what's clear to us in this industry, as in most customer-facing industries, you cannot take things for granted, and you cannot
rest on your laurels.
Sit by simply because you have a good product.
And you
have a good one, the last few movies were good, and it's going to continue to be that. You have to remain on your toes. You have to constantly reinvent yourself, come up with new product, keep the offering fresh, and keep your standards up. And you have to deliver that in a consistent manner. I think customers look for sincerity and sort of constance in the experience that they seek out of their home. The moment they do, you get that. The moment you feel like you have value for money, that you're getting an experience that meets your expectation, I think you're compelled to come back.
Then brand affinity creates.
Absolutely. You create that trust factor that is extremely important. Now, of course, with the new media of today and social media, customer engagement is key. That's an area where we're putting a lot of effort today in terms of ensuring that customers are not only the recipient on the receiving end of the experience, but also participate in the experience, right? The sort of concept of co-creating, your own experience, being part of that element. People, I think, seek that out today. They want to sort of quote unquote lift up the hood, right? They don't want to simply go and see a movie because they've been told to.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
They want to recommend things. They want to tell their friends or their trusted colleagues or partners, family members, okay, well, I recommend that, and I put my name behind that. And by the way,
go to PVR and watch it.
Correct. So I think that is something that we are very, very focused on today.
That's the sense of community I was talking about.
Absolutely, no doubt.
Great. So with the development of the cinema experience from 3D to 4D in some instances, or these sensory enhancements, we have now seen how the advent of AR and VR gaming has also come into play.
Right.
And even live events. If you go to the theatre, sometimes there are activations that are done by the theatre themselves where it enhances and makes it a more enjoyable experience even before you move into the cinema to watch the movie. Does PVR have this on your agenda? How do you plan on integrating or bringing out a potential crossover between AR, VR, gaming, live events, and so on?
Yeah, in fact, we are in the process right now of evaluating and assessing a number of these experiences. Gaming, in particular, is one. VR as well. Whether they sort of take place within the auditorium or in the lobby, that's something that we're still working on. And the answer might be both, depending on the type of content that is driving those experiences. For sure, gaming is a fast-growing sector of the entertainment industry. There's no question about that. It's primarily done on mobile right now, at least in this part of the world. And so we have to sort of see how this will eventually sort of trickle down, or it can be sort of reproduced in the context of our in the context of our properties. But for sure, there's room for that. There's an audience for this, especially in the younger segment of our audience. So we're quite excited to to introduce some of this concept, and I think a few of them are already coming in. Some of our properties in India.
What can Sri Lankan moviegoers expect from PVR next?
Pardon?
What can Sri Lankan moviegoers expect from the Sri Lankan cinema?
So, well, we are just releasing. We've enhanced our property here with Atmos and top-notch, sound and projection systems.
Right.
So that obviously is part of what your question was all about before. How do you keep going? How do you keep people keep them
on their feet back?
And how do you keep them engaged with the experience? Is essentially to ensure that they are offered the best cinema movie going experience, and that comes with the technology to start with. So that's that is actually being launched tomorrow. So we are launching Tron. The movie premiere is on tomorrow at the cinema. So we'll be showcasing that.
Amazing, great. There's a lot to look forward to for Sri Lanka moviegoers from PVR INOX. Renaud, let's talk about leadership, the culture you inculcate within your teams, and how you keep them creative. You work with multiple teams across diverse regions. When it comes to managing cultural diversity, it's very tough. You have to calibrate according to each team's requirements and how they operate. Within the entertainment industry, that is tougher because you have to keep on being creative and creating to offer a better experience to customers. How do you keep yourself motivated and motivate your teams to be creative?
Right. Well, I think it's by ensuring that you also get out, you don't have any sort of blinders, right? You need to constantly take the pulse of the market, both on the customer side, but as well as on what the competition is doing, what other stakeholders of the industry are doing, without preconceived notions, right? So you need to sort of keep a very 360-degree sort of approach to what's coming next, and not be afraid to experiment with strict guidelines. So try and test, and then move on if it doesn't work, and there's nothing wrong about that, right?
It's okay to fail.
It's absolutely okay to fail. In fact, it's even encouraged to recognize that something don't work, and then move on and not linger on and try to tweak it until there's actually hardly anything left to do about it.
Tweak on, yes.
Yeah. So it's okay to fail and move on quickly to the next experiment, because ultimately this is how you're going to find that experiment that work, and that becomes eventually the new paradigm or the new offering that
it might be a new era that you introduce.
Yes, it might be service led, it might be technology led, it might be food and beverage related. So you never know quite where the greatest idea comes from. So you have to keep your mind set open and your team's mindset open for that, and encourage that mindset to thrive.
And you're open to receiving ideas, fresh suggestions from any of your team members.
Absolutely, I think that's the key. After that, you need to also have a very strong framework in place to make sure that you can funnel these ideas into some actionable system, right? And then, like I said before, then gauge their performance very quickly, and then either continue on or move on to the next one. But that is absolutely key, and in a very fast changing market that we are, and a very fast changing consumer market that we are, where people have access to all sort of information globally, right? All sorts of product offering. You need to be able to move on and to create new product very, very quickly.
Great. So moving away from your team, and talking about PVR as a whole, as a legacy organization, as a large institution that has gone from strength to strength over the years, what are your thoughts on cultivating innovation amongst all the teams across all of the businesses at PVR, and how important is it to keep innovating?
It's key. So obviously innovation today comes a lot through IT developments, right? But it also comes from some less obvious corners, right? We have built an F&B team at PVR that is more like a hotel organization than the traditional cinema operation, right? Where the level of expertise, the level of skill set,
professionalism, yes,
absolutely, is very much similar and synonymous to what you see in a traditional hospitality organization. Okay. So I think the main innovation outside technology, right, that took place over maybe the last 10, 15 years at PVR. And that has really been a leading factor, even globally, if you compare what other large cinema companies across the world are providing or offering in terms of food or dining experience, has been the hospitality component of it. The large majority of our cinema managers in India and other specialist manager in different areas of the team come from the hospitality industry. So there's no.
So now there is a component of hospitality within the cinema industry as
major,
well.
Which combines obviously itself with the service element, right? Where it is more about pampering the guests from really the moment they decide to go to the cinema and enter the property to the moment they left, and then of course the handout is given to our IT teams that then can provide them with tools online through the app and website where they can
simpler processes.
They can continue to enjoy a premium experience, seamless experience, but also give them tools to talk about it, right, and to engage with the customer. I think that's also key to be able to. Not only to gauge the feedback of the customer, but to allow the customer to become almost brand ambassador to the organization and to the experience.
That's how you create that sense of community we were talking about.
That's how you send that community factor, and that community factor is essentially based on trust. People trust an advice or a recommendation coming from somebody they know.
Yeah.
That
it's more personable.
That has more value than another organization or
reading something online
or a blog that is completely unrelated and unfamiliar.
Yes. You're more familiar with the person who is giving you a one-on-one recommendation.
Correct. Absolutely. So that is essential.
Great. So unfortunately we're running out of time, but there's much that I want to discuss with you. Finally, Renaud, I want to ask you, what sort of advice do you have to offer to young entrepreneurs or young executives who want to work in this fast-paced entertainment industry? What kind of passion, what kind of skill set, what sort of mantras should they follow to stay relevant in a fast-paced industry like the entertainment industry?
Right. Passion for the product is essential, right? We're talking about storytelling, movies, content that really sort of take your mind out of the day-to-day sort of vicissitudes of life or reality, right? So passion to engage people into and bring them a product that is extraordinary by nature, right? That passion needs to be there.
You have to be the brand.
Yeah, you need to embody that escapism from day one. You need to really, sort of take people to a different place the moment they come in the cinema. So you have to be wanting to provide that amazing customer experience from day one, right? And that passion for giving people a good time through the content that we have and we book in the cinema, but from the experience and the contact that connection that we establish right from the moment the people enter the lobby, right? Or connect with us through the app and so on and so forth. Then the second, more of a sort of professional advice and guidance is be patient, build meaningful relationship not only with the customers but also with the organization, right? With your colleagues, with the organization. Don't be in a hurry
to succeed.
To obviously success is the goal, but don't be in a hurry to fast track your growth, right?
So enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey. Take the time to learn and absorb meaningful guidance from people that you will look up to during your time in the organization. Appreciate mentoring, seek out mentoring, and obviously engage with your organization and your team in a meaningful manner. That requires time. Very often, and this is the nature of youth. Very 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 often we see young people in a hurry to climb up the professional career steps. And that's obviously very natural. Right? And ultimately, you want people to grow, and as an organization, we are here to offer them that path, right? Yeah. That's sort of.
And you can't fault them; it's their desire to succeed.
Obviously, but in a hurried approach to succeed, very often you will. The risk is you will not garner and build up the skills, and the experience and the maturity to take yourself to the next level in a meaningful manner. So I talked about sincerity before, about the offering to the customer, right? Customers, the market knows very well, very, very quickly. There's an intuitive connection between a customer and the product or the service that he or she consumes. Yes. If that sincerity is not embedded in the service or the product, quickly the market understands will lose interest. It's the same in an organization. I think as a young professional, be sincere about your intent, and be patient about how you achieve that intent and this goal. And that way you will succeed famously. There's no question.
Amazing. So I think those were some famous closing thoughts from Renaud Palliere, CEO of International Development at PVR INOX, who was my guest on Power Moves today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Joining me on Power Moves. We wish you and PVR all of the best, and we hope to see new innovations, new experiences from PVR when we step into the cinemas next.
Looking forward to seeing you at the movies.
Catch you soon on a brand new episode of Power Moves. Till then, take care and stay safe.